Aston Villa 1, Chelsea 4. Now, Enzo Fernandez. A lot of people do not appreciate what Enzo Fernandez does for Chelsea. And I think under Rosinho, he's beginning to use Enzo Fernandez and Cole Palmer in a whole different way. I have mentioned it in an analysis before, but this game actually highlights what he wants to do with Enzo Fernandez and Cole Palmer. Cole Palmer is not in the best form right now. Forget the fact that he scored a goal. He scored a hat-trick 2 or 3 matches ago. But Enzo Fernandez, watch something. Basically, this was Chelsea's lineup in this game. The only difference from how Chelsea used to build up before was that we didn't have the double pivot of Caicedo and Andre Santos in this game. Instead, what would usually happen is, because Aston Villa wanted to defend in a very narrow 4-4-2 shape, very narrow, they tried to compress the pitch and squeeze into the middle, which played into Chelsea's hands in a way. But Chelsea, on the other hand, now looked to push Garnacho and Gusto high up the pitch. Garnacho had the width on the left and Gusto had the width on the right. And then Reece James inverted into midfield to become one of the double pivots. But usually, Aston Villa were able to lock in on this Chelsea's first line of pressure and sort of try to create the pressure and stay compact. But what you then had most of the time was that instead of staying very high, you had Cole Palmer dropping deep, and then Tyrone Mings has to step up to come and cover him. Or you had Enzo Fernandez basically just coming around that Villa's compact midfield and taking balls out wide here, picking up balls from different positions where there are gaps all over the pitch. The effect of Palmer dragging Mings out of position is that there was always a gap in that Aston Villa defense. Chelsea did the same thing against Arsenal, if you watch my analysis of that game. But why Arsenal could cope with it was that Arsenal were more than willing to go 1-1 with Chelsea all over the pitch. But the problem with Aston Villa's defending was that Unai Emery prioritizes staying compact and staying narrow to going 1-1 and getting into a 1v1 fight all over the pitch. And don't get me wrong, I don't think Aston Villa would have won that 1-1 fight with Chelsea all over the pitch, the way Arsenal were able to win individual battles. But now, that played into Chelsea's hands. That being able to drag players out of position, especially Tyrone Mings and Konsa, being able to drag them out of that defensive line, while Villa were not even putting enough pressure on the ball, and also staying very compact and very narrow to try to squeeze up the pitch. It played into Chelsea's hands. Let's look at the goals Chelsea scored and see what I'm talking about. First of all, let me just show you one sequence of play to explain what I'm talking about. Now, this is a typical Chelsea build-up. Of course, it's Hato here and Chalobah, and then these are the 3 defenders, and you, of course, had Reece James and Moises Caicedo basically being the double pivot. And Villa on this occasion have stayed narrow and stayed compact to try to limit Chelsea's spaces from building out. Now, what you will see is that look at Cole Palmer and Enzo Fernandez now dropping behind that Villa's midfield and attacking line. If I take it one frame further, this is Tyrone Mings. Tyrone Mings has now stepped out to come and take on Cole Palmer, which, fine and good. This would have not been a problem. It wasn't a problem because they were willing to go 1-1 all over the pitch. Villa were not. They prioritized staying compact. And in doing so, now you notice that Enzo Fernandez is free here in a castle of space. Nobody is picking him up. But that wasn't much of a problem because, of course, Cole Palmer didn't find him on that occasion. But watch what happens now. As the ball goes back, Fernandez is still free in a lot of space between the lines. Because of the presence of João Pedro here now, Konsa cannot step up because Mings has gone with Palmer. Konsa here cannot step up to come and close Enzo Fernandez. So it means that Fernandez is in a lot of space. Now, even if the ball does not come to him, I want you to just see the condition that they are in now. You had Hato from left back now peeling away and attacking that gap that is now in Villa's defense because of Tyrone Mings coming out to mark Cole Palmer. Even if Mings is trying to get back now, look at the gap in Villa's defense. Look at the gap that Hato is running into and look at how much space João Pedro has here. And then when Garnacho is eventually able to get this ball into the box, it's 2-2 on that far post and Chelsea gets a header. But of course, on this occasion, Villa got away with it. But look at Chelsea's goal eventually. Now, this is Chelsea in their own half trying to build up again. And then one thing I want you to keep an eye on is, this is Cole Palmer here. He has dropped very deep and taken one of Villa's defender with him already. Even on this particular phase of play now, João Pedro has also dropped deep to come and assist with progressing the ball out from the back. And Tyrone Mings has gone with him. So there is a very wide space in Villa's defense. Again, this wasn't a problem for Arsenal because they were willing to go 1-1 with Chelsea. Villa were not. Villa prioritized staying compact and staying narrow to compress space for Chelsea. This did not go down well with them because Konsa here does not want to jump on Enzo Fernandez because if he does, he's just going to leave a lacuna in that defense. So he stays put, and then Enzo Fernandez is able to receive the ball in space. And of course, because these 2 center backs have jumped with Cole Palmer and Pedro, it therefore means that Kopama has acres of space behind that Villa line to run into. And of course, Enzo Fernandez tries to find him with the pass, but it gets cut off. But Chelsea were still on the attack. They were able to recover the ball. And then once again, Fernandez drops out of the line to come and receive the ball in space again. Now, once he holds this ball, what really happens was that because of how narrow and how compact Villa want to be, they were not really able to defend their flanks. You would immediately see that Malo Gusto starts running behind that narrow line to begin with. And then on this side of the pitch again, Hato is also making a similar run there. So Chelsea's two fullbacks are already running behind because Aston Villa are quite narrow. And then once Enzo Fernandez is able to pick out this pass, it was downhill from there. Malo Gusto could put a nice ball inside the 18-yard box for Joao Pedro to finish. But then again, look at Chelsea's second goal again. It still had the imprint of Enzo Fernandez again. Now, of course, it's another Chelsea build-up. And what has happened here now is that Fernandez has dropped deep to come and receive the ball. This is Fernandez here, almost playing as a centre-back on this occasion. And once he does that, if you look at Hato on this edge of the screen, in order to make sure that nobody jumps in with him, Hato has spotted the gap and he's going to make a dash forward. In fact, he's going to end up inside Villa's 18-yard box while this build-up was in play. And now, if we look at Enzo Fernandez's starting position, and then look at Hato again, making a run forward to make sure that he's able to occupy the space that is left behind. But of course, the defender eventually comes back with him to make sure that he's taken out of the game. But in doing so now, there is now a large gap in front of that Aston Villa's 18-yard box again. And guess who goes on to occupy that gap? Of course, Enzo Fernandez. He was a centre-back 2 seconds ago. And within the space of 6 seconds, he is now in front of Villa's 18-yard box. But because of Hato's run now, being able to force Villa's defense to go very deep, again, Enzo Fernandez picks up the ball in front of that Villa 18-yard box in a lot of space. And of course, all he had to do was hold off his man and find a perfect ball for Joao Pedro to duly finish for Chelsea's second goal. But I think once Chelsea got their noses in front, they were actually able to seize control of this game from here. The third and the fourth goal was Villa trying to come out and put some pressure on Chelsea. But of course, Chelsea had the game wrapped up by that time. It was just a matter of controlling the game and waiting for Villa to actually make a mistake for them to pounce on. And I think that is what happened in Chelsea's third goal. I think Villa were basically playing with fire here. Once they lost the ball here and Joao Pedro collected it, it was almost 4 against 4. And from then on, the Chelsea goal was almost inevitable. And once again, like I mentioned before, is that narrowness and compactness of Villa's defense. It works when it works. When it doesn't work, this is the result. On this occasion, they stayed very compact again, trying to cut off chances. Even Tyrone Mings here knew that they were very narrow. He was already pointing his hands out wide. But before his fullback could react, Reece James has spotted the gap and duly put himself in that gap to receive the ball out wide. And of course, once Martinez vomits the ball, Kopama just makes sure he buries it. But I think from then on, it was clear that Chelsea were going to win the game because they had this one wrapped up. A good win for Chelsea, back into 5th position. I think the race for Champions League football next season is now open, but I still maintain that Chelsea has the toughest run of fixtures to go. It's not out of their hands completely yet, but let's see how it goes. Let me know your thoughts on the game. If there's something that you feel I missed that we need to talk about, put it in the comment section. I don't mind doing another video to address it. But maybe hear your thoughts. See you on the next one.